have a really exciting presentation for everybody today. We're going to show you how we at our homestead butcher meat chickens. This season we did almost 300 meat birds. Today we've done about 28 birds out of about 32 meat chickens that we had to process today. I'm going to walk you through the process on the last 4 out of 300 meat birds. And over the last 10 years, every year we've done hundreds of meat chickens. So this is literally thousands of meat chickens processed on a homestead. We started years ago. We didn't have any fancy equipment. We had one of these killing cones tacked to a tree and a knife and a pot of hot water to dunk the chicken in, and we hand plucked. Now our setup is a lot more sophisticated. We have a lot more equipment here, but don't let that stop you from getting started. You can mimic whatever areas of this you can mimic, you can copy at your own homestead, and then build into the future, build up your setup and try to match ours if you like doing this yourself. You're gonna see a lot of different equipment today. I will have links below to all the equipment that we use, and I'll also put alternative equipment that we've used in years past. Talk a little bit about the clothes I'm wearing, the setup, the layout here, so you can mimic this at your own homestead. Today, just me and my 2 oldest kids, I have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, we were able to do 30 birds in, we started about 9 o'clock and we're gonna be done about 3 o'clock, and we took an hour-long lunch break. So if you have a setup like this, you can do 30 to 50 birds a day with your family. With a couple of helpers, we've done as many as 100 birds in one day with this setup. And if you took a long weekend, you could do a lot of birds. Let me start by talking about what I'm wearing and what you're gonna see my gear throughout this butchering setup. Butcher day chickens, it's a wet process. There's a lot of water, hoses, freezing cold water, dipping tanks and things. So I like to wear rubber boots. I wear a pair of LL Bean. They're actually like hunting pants. They're made for going out in the brush in the early morning when there's dew. So they're water resistant. They're also thorn proof. I like those because they hold up to knives and pointy, chicken claws, and they're waterproof, so they help me stay dry. Underneath I have another layer of clothes. So my rubber boots, my LL Bean waterproof pants. I have this heavy duty leather apron. That's also not only keeps you dry, but it's an additional safety. If you were to slip with a knife, not a rubber apron, I call it a rubber apron. This is a leather apron. This will catch your knife and it'll stop from cutting you. Now, it's not as safe as like a chainmail apron, and if you're cutting something larger or you are not really good with a knife and you're learning, chainmail apron is always an option. I'll use a chainmail apron for something like a beef, but I won't use it on a chicken processing day. I'm pretty comfortable doing butchering with knife work. And this is just a small extra layer should something slip. I also wear a no-cut glove, as you can see. Not on my cutting hand, my right hand, I just have a neoprene glove just to keep the hand sanitized and to keep it dry. But here I have a neoprene or just like a little, this one's not neoprene, but it's just a rubber glove you keep in the barn. And then this is a chainmail metal glove over the top of that. You can use any kind of cut resistant glove. Again, I'll have links below for that gear. And that's kind of my setup. If it's the heat of summer, I might actually have shorts on under this. Sometimes we're butchering in the middle of summer. Of course, I also have my nice Homesteady hoodie. You can get those, the link below to those too. I can't guarantee they'll protect you in any way on Chicken Butcher Day, but they make it that much more fun. That's what I have on my body as far as what I'm wearing. You'll see the equipment that we use along the way through this process. Our first spot here, you see we have some chicken crates here with our chickens already loaded. I like to load the chickens early in the morning so that all the adrenaline of chickens being caught gets to leave their body. They get to calm down. You can see they're sitting there, they're nice and calm. The first place they're gonna go is to our carousel of death. I know that's a little grim, but that's just what we call it here. This is our killing cone setup. You can buy an individual killing cone online. I'll have links below for the ones we use, and just tack it to a tree. We did that for years. We actually have this stand made. You can't buy this anywhere. This spinning stand, and the reason it's nice that it spins is we can grab one chicken, put it in, kill it, spin, grab another chicken, put it in, kill it, spin, and keep working without moving our setup here, just filling it. And once we fill this thing, you'll notice I leave one empty just to remind us of the first chicken. We put 7 chickens on here in a full rotation, and then by the time we get the 7th one killed, the first one is bled out into this vat here, which collects the blood. He's thoroughly bled out, thoroughly dead, and we're able to take him to the next stage of the process. We're gonna start, we have 4 chickens to process. I'm gonna grab the first one and... All right, I got a chicken that I'm going to be processing. We're gonna start right here at the killing cone. You'll notice when I hold the chicken, I like to put the wings, I like to put my hands over the wings to keep them compressed against the chicken. Keeps it calm. If you let those wings flap around, they can actually break a wing or break a leg if they flap around and fight. So try to hold them tight to your body. As I lower them into the killing cone, there will be some flapping. We'll try to keep it minimum. I grab the legs so that as I lower it down in, I am controlling the legs, they're not clawing me. Lower the chicken into the killing cone. As you saw in the title, this is the highly edited version of this video. It is YouTube friendly. If you want to see the unedited version of this, at the end of the video, I will explain how you can do that, how you can see the more in-depth version. But enjoy watching now. The chicken is already dead on the other side of this clip. Let's jump back into the butcher process. You know, you could just take a hatchet and cut the head clean off. People ask me all the time, why don't I just take a hatchet and a log and cut it off like Grandma used to do? If you do that, I've done it, the chicken will flap around, fly around, bruise the meat, break wings, get dirty, get messy. This keeps the end product beautiful. It keeps the meat from being bruised, it keeps wings from breaking. So I prefer this method, and when done correctly, I feel that it is a peaceful way for the animal to die. So that's why I use a killing cone. On your homestead, you can do what you like, but this is what we like to do. We're gonna do another kill here, and I'll get a close-up shot of the cut so you can really see the difference in doing not the front but the side cut. So let's get close up to that. In the extended version of this video, I explain that you want to not cut the chicken's throat on the front of the chicken, but rather the side. And I demonstrate this in a lot of detail. Again, not okay for this YouTube version, so we're gonna skip ahead. And now I have the very last chicken on our homestead being processed in the year 2020. These birds provide our family with so much delicious, healthy meat. We are so grateful to these animals and what they give us. And we're very, very grateful. This is the hardest part of the process. You should feel a little bit of trouble going through this part. Your heart hurts a little bit. You feel sad about killing an animal. All these animals die eventually. Every animal on the earth is going to die. And a great way to care for your land and feed your family is through livestock management, and high quality, amazing quality protein from your property in the form of chicken is something that we really like to do every year. So this is the hardest part. From here, it starts to become just a roast chicken. It starts to, really quickly, it'll start looking like a roast chicken. And at that point, it's just, I like the butcher process. Once the kill is over, I like turning this into something beautiful for the table. This one is definitely dead. We're ready to move to the next stage, which before we scald is actually to just give this bird an initial cleaning. So let's go to the next station. All right, the next thing we're going to do is wash the bird. This step of the process, we have just a Rubbermaid tote with some water in it. We change this water pretty frequently because the one job of this little tub with water and a real stiff little scrubby brush is to get as much poop off of this chicken before it gets into our scalding tank and further down the line. You're trying to get as much solid waste off of the bird before it gets in your scalding water. When the bird is thoroughly cleaned, I bring it over here to our scalder. We have a dipper. This scalding tank is a custom-made scalding tank. The way this thing works These shackles hold the birds in place. We find 3 birds is the right number for scalding and then putting right into the plucker. If you don't have a fancy setup like this, that's okay. You can scald, if you just have like a turkey cooker and a big pot, you can dunk 1 bird. You want your water to be over 145 degrees, but not too hot where it starts cooking your chicken at like 155 degrees. So try to keep it in that range of 145 to 150. This, with the automatic plucker, goes a lot quicker. So let me show you the scalding and the plucking all at once. We're gonna dunk and then pluck. Okay. So with this manual dipper, you gotta push them down, 3, pull them up, let them kind of drip dry a little bit, then back down in the water, 1, 2, 3, and you want to agitate the water. You see I'm making waves, shaking the birds. That makes sure all of the feathers are getting a good scald. Right about now I'm going to start pulling on these wing feathers. They're still stiff. I want them to come out very easily. Those ones came out pretty easy, so now I know these birds are ready. If I scald them much more, I'm going to start cooking them. I don't want to do that. As soon as I'm done with the scald, they go into the plucker, which is already on. That way, as soon as they're scalded, these feathers start coming off. Watch how amazing this is. Just a matter of seconds, we already have a bird that's almost completely plucked. This saves so much time. I'm gonna turn it out for just a quick second just to show you how clean these birds are. Really, the only feathers that should be left at the end might be a little bit on the tail there, and those get cut off anyway. So that was a really good scald. We got a beautifully clean bird. We don't want to let them spin much longer than this, because at that point we risk breaking the skin or breaking legs. We're going to turn it off and we're going to move them to our next stage of our process here, and they're just perfect looking birds. The next stage of this process is evisceration. So here we have a whole chicken, all the parts. And when I'm done at the gutting table, what I want is to have basically a roaster chicken with no guts in it. And at that point, we can pick it apart and do other things with it, break it down if we want to break it down or whatever. But right now, we're just trying to turn this big full bird into a roaster bird. I do some things different than what you'll see at the supermarket, just because on a homestead, there are things that I like and I don't like that the supermarket does differently for different reasons. I have big cutting boards here. You can buy these, link below. Victorinox. All the knives you're going to see me use today are Victorinox knives. They are quality knives without the quality price. They are not the cheapest knives you'll see on Amazon, but they're also nowhere near the most expensive, and they keep a sharp blade. Every butcher I've ever interviewed and gone to the butcher shop and seen the tools they use Victorinox. I'll link below. These orange ones, they have a unique tip. They're nice for doing evisceration. You're less likely to poke stuff with that knife. And the orange is a warning sign to people on our line. Don't use the orange knives anywhere other than the evisceration table. I don't want that knife for my the final part where we're cutting the bird up, we're cutting through the meat, we're piecing out the bird. I never use a gutting knife to cut through the meat. I only use the gutting knife to cut through areas that are not going to be eaten. For example, the first thing I will do here is I will cut the legs and the head off. You can use a pair of shears. Now, this is a pair of Victorinox poultry shears. I do not recommend these. I actually recommend Shun. Shun makes a great shear. They're not a poultry shear like the Victorinox ones, but they work better. These are specifically poultry shears. They have that little notch there which helps you cut through bone. They're good shears. They're okay for this process. They're a little bit big and hard to use. I like the Shun shears better. But I borrow the Shun shears. These are the ones I purchased, and so today you're going to see me using the Victorinox. But again, links below to everything I recommend. These are okay, but I'd rather get the Shuns, and they're no more expensive. You can cut the legs off with the shears. That's one option. But I find a lot of times if you do that, you'll actually cut through the bone and get some bone shard. So while the shears work for that, I actually prefer to use a knife. You find the spot where it bends and you start to push on it, and what you'll find there is you'll actually, more times than not, you'll wind up going through in between, and you'll have that nice rounded bone there instead of what you saw me do with the shears, which is cut through the lower part. Now I can remove that here because you don't want some cut bone because there'll be some bone shards in there. So I can kind of cut at that, and now I fixed the problem that I caused with the shears. That's why I use the knife more than the shears for that part. The only thing I really always use the shears for is cutting the neck, because I don't want to dull my knife on bones, and it's hard to cut through the neck and not wind up getting bones. So shears do a pretty good job at cutting through. Now, shears do not cut skin very well, so a knife might finish the job there. And as you'll notice, with all the parts I don't use, I toss them forward, which is where that wheelbarrow I showed you is over there. So now this chicken looks like a roaster chicken. I leave a lot of neck on the animal because we like to use the neck for stock. Might not look like what you buy at the supermarket, but I'm a homesteader. I don't buy stuff from the stupid market. There you go. I don't buy stuff from the supermarket. Now I take a small pinch of skin by the butthole here. I take my knife and I come like this. And I just kind of go through and open it smallest hole as possible. Now we're going to do a half moon cut around the butthole. So we go like this, half moon. You can go from the other side to connect the dots. And you're very much trying to loosen things in here without pop things. So we have cut half moon around. Now I can actually pull this out. If poop were to come out of this bird now, it's not on the meat. And the goal is to not puncture anything in here. I'm going to reach in and I'm going to follow the arch of this chest bone. I'm going to grab everything and pull it out. We separate the heart here. That's the chicken heart. We save those. Those are delicious. The chicken gizzard. We save the gizzard. You can also save the chicken liver. I now like to cut this tail clean off. So two cuts on either side of the tail should do it. My knife needs a little sharpening. There is an oil gland in that tail, which if you cook that, it'll smell bad. So I'm going to take the heart and the gizzard and I'm going to toss them into another container I have over there for hearts and gizzards. The next thing I've got to do is reach up here. I got to get the windpipe and the crop out of the top. Here's a good question for a veteran gutter as yourself. Do you prefer a clean crop or a somewhat full crop?
Full.
Full? How come?
Well, if it's clean, it's very, very, very hard to see. If you can miss it sometimes, and then if you don't have a good quality control, they can miss it. Then that winds up in the roast bird.
Absolutely true.
But the full one, the one bad thing with it is you don't want to pop it, otherwise it gets all the feed,
yeah,
chicken feed all over the
pretty nasty. What job have you done mostly on our chicken processing line?
Gutting.
Gutting. The 10-year-old gutting master. A couple of the other knives I keep on hand. I didn't parts a bird in this demo. This is mostly just to show the main butchering. But I do have a couple more Victorinox. I have a breaking knife, which helps with partsing.
They're
I have
solid.
Another
See them, Daddy?
smaller fillet knife that I can use. Oh yeah. That's all good for cutting parts. This is a Victorinox rabbit knife. I use this for doing some final finished work. Another nice little knife. Keep all these tools around for whatever we're doing. All the different parts of the process. I have a couple Yeti coolers here, and inside the coolers you'll find we have these big chunks of ice. We freeze in like 3-gallon buckets the night before, tons of these giant chunks of ice. We put them in coolers with water. So the water is ice cold. My fingers touching that are freezing right now. I bury this chicken in that ice water. I want the whole chickens, all the cavity, just getting super chilled. If you put that on top of like a bag of ice that you bought at the store. First off, you buy ice at the store, you spend a fortune in ice for Chicken Butcher Day. And then if your ice is in there without water and the chicken goes on top of it, only the part of the chicken touching the ice even gets cold. The rest of the chicken doesn't cool down. You want water, you want that whole chicken submerged in ice cold water. It sucks the heat out of the carcass, which keeps bacteria growth from happening, and that's the key. When that bird is really, really cold, and you'll notice I already have other chicken in here. I can pull one out that's been chilling for a while. Here's one. This chicken's really cold. I can feel the skin is like freezing cold. We're gonna go hang it to drip dry, and we have an upright freezer over here where we do that. So let's go to the freezer. In this upright freezer, we have, this is kind of a unique thing we do. I want these chickens to drip dry before I package them. If they go in the packaging wet, you'll get ice crystals. So the more they get to drip dry before you package them, the nicer the product will be in the end. So to do that, we have this upright freezer. We have little tiny meat hooks hanging there. Be careful when you're working with them not to stick yourself on the meat hook. We take the chicken and we stick it in here and we hang it on the meat hook. And it drips down. Obviously at the end of the day, we have to totally disinfect this freezer, clean out all the chicken drippings. But they hang there on the meat hook. They're not touching anything. They get to drip dry. We close the freezer. So right now they're in there drip drying. We're gonna allow them to drip dry for a little while, and then we'll go to the next pretty much final stage of this process, which is packaging. So we take these are poultry shrink bags, and we put these bags over the whole chicken, and that's what this little stand is kind of helpful for. It kind of helps you get it around the chicken like that. And then we just take it upside down. We pull this out, and we're gonna use that later to help actually shrink wrap it. Now the chicken's in the poultry shrink bag. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take this little straw, and you stick it in the cavity of the chicken. And then we take this bag and we spin it a few times. We take a zip tie, and we already do the zip tie around this bag. And these poultry shrink bags, links below if you want to purchase them. They work great. They're the easiest way to package a chicken, and they come with all this stuff. The zip ties, all the tube that you need. And what this is going to do is we're going to stick this down in a pot. You want to make sure your straw is in the cavity of the chicken but not touching meat, because air has to come out of there as the bag shrinks. And once we use this to push that down in the boiling water, we're going to move over to the last station, which is the shrink wrap station. And we'll be done with this bird. So let's head over. Our final station is where we do the shrink wrap. This is a turkey fryer. This is what used to be our scalding setup. Now we're able to use this at the end of the line to do the heat shrink. This water has to be 185 degrees. We got our bag all ready to go. We got our little tube. And I actually need the big pair of heat gloves. My daughter will grab those. We're gonna dip this bird down into the hot water. We like to put a pair of like welding gloves because it'll keep you from getting burned. Now don't let this glove get wet, because then the water will be pretty hot. It's just an added bit of security. We're gonna take this, we're gonna fully submerge it, and that's what, oh! Make sure not to get the gloves wet. We're gonna use this tool to push it down in the water, because you don't, like I said, you don't want to get your gloves wet. And when we do that, give it about 3 seconds. The bag shrinks. You pull it up out of the water. You pop that hose out. It shrinks down together. Give that zip tie one more little tug, and put your stuff there. And that is a beautifully packaged meat bird. You're doing a pretty good job. 10 years old, he's a master. That looks perfect.
What am I doing?
There is your done product. That is a perfect little roaster chicken. It's been heat shrunk, bagged. These bags will last for ages in the freezer. You can eat chicken that's a year old, as long as it hasn't thawed from like a power outage or anything. It'll be safe, it'll be good quality, the meat holds up. If you want to get fancy, you trim your zip tie close and you cut this excess off and you slap a sticker on it. If you're selling it, I suggest you make it look really perfect. That is one bird, start to finish, and now we're gonna finish up on our last birds. If you're watching the rerun on YouTube, a lot got edited out because YouTube is really bad about doing videos like this. Click there and become a Homesteady Pioneer, where not only do you get the unedited versions of these, stuff that's like too hot for YouTube. Homesteady Pioneers, they get all our bonus content, live shows, and more. So click there to learn more about that. I'm gonna finish up our chickens with my kids for the day. For the year, I'm thrilled to have all this amazing quality product in the freezer. I hope it works as good for your family as it does for us. We do this every year. Been doing it for a decade now. It's a great way to feed the kids.
And then you're doing what? Right?
Oh yeah, look at all that. Oh, don't get the glove wet.
This is definitely a straw you do not want to drink out of. Big, fat, juicy chicken.
That's it for our chicken butcher day. You and a couple helpers can do at least, if you're doing it super old school, I know you can do at least 10 birds a day. We used to do that, hand plucking. We used to actually do more. We used to do 20 or 30 with a couple helpers. With the more mechanized stuff, you can do a lot more. Me and my two kids are able to do 30 with all the mechanized stuff. But I mean, we could have done 50 today. We're just ending a little bit early. Make sure to send your helpers home with some chicken. Let them know how much you appreciate their help. Keep them happy so they come back for next year's chicken butcher day. And that's pretty much it. We've put up enough chicken now. Today we put up enough chicken to last our family about a quarter of the year. But this year we have more chicken than, we've put up enough chicken to last us more than a year this year. So feels really good.
Hello, I'm a happy little chicken. Nothing bad has happened to me except I've been gutted and beheaded. And cooked and killed. That's all.
I know some of you are dying to see the full unedited version of this so that you can actually see how to make the kill in the best way, how you can do the right cut, a lot more detail on the gutting process. I understand some of you need more information. That extended version is in the Pioneer Library. It's a 45-minute, a lot more in depth. You're going to, at the end of that version, know exactly how to do this process every single step of the way. Here's my gift to you for making it to the end of the video. If you click on the link that just popped up, you can get 1 month free of Pioneer membership, access to all our bonus videos, including this one where you can see the extended version for free. Watch it, enjoy it for a month. If you don't like it when you're all done, cancel anytime. Click there for free Pioneer membership. Get all our extended version of videos. The videos we're not going to put on YouTube anymore because YouTube doesn't want this kind of information. YouTube doesn't want these kind of videos, but we know some of you do. The Homesteady Pioneer Library is the place for those of you out there who want more.